Colombia's most wanted drug lord and gang leader is behind bars. Soldiers captured Dairo Antonio Úsuga in an operation near the border with Panama. He's accused of drug trafficking, murder, and kidnapping.
Colombia's most wanted, caught in his jungle hideout. Dairo Antonio Úsuga, known as Otoniel, eluded authorities for years.
Alias Otoniel.
Otoniel was the most feared narco-trafficking leader in all the world. A murderer of police officers, soldiers, social leaders, a recruiter of children. This is only paralleled by the fall of Pablo Escobar in the 1990s. The operation to capture Otoniel involved more than 500 soldiers and special forces. The narco-trafficker is accused of spending decades building the so-called Gulf Clan cartel, controlling much of the smuggling of cocaine through northern Colombia. Over those years, he allied himself with rebel groups, both right and left-wing, to ensure his survival in the jungle. He allegedly oversaw an army of assassins who kept northern Colombia in fear as they fought for control of lucrative smuggling routes. Capturing Otoniel is a victory for the state and the rule of law against the biggest threat in Colombia, drug trafficking. That may be, but Otoniel's arrest comes amid a surge in the production of coca, the raw material used to make cocaine, to new levels, despite decades of efforts to eradicate the drug trade.
And for more on this, let's go to Bogota and talk to Sergio Guzman in the Colombian capital. He's the director of the Colombia Risk Analysis, a political risk consultancy for the Andean region. Mr. Guzman, authorities have been hunting Otoniel for years. What was the final piece of the puzzle that led to his arrest?
Good morning, and it's wonderful to be here. I think the Colombian authorities have, for decades, been trying to infiltrate the Clan del Golfo, put out rewards that lead to the capture or killing of many of these drug kingpins. And this is definitely suggests that intelligence apparatus is working in Colombia.
And can you tell us more about this Clan del Golfo? Is this the end of it, as the president was sort of intimating, now that its boss is behind bars?
By no means is it the end of it, nor is it the end of the war on drugs as we know it. In fact, we've been here before. This situation has played out again. The president said this is the most important killing since the death of Pablo Escobar, which didn't bring down drug trafficking. Instead, it diversified drug trafficking from Pablo Escobar to lower kingpins down the road. And that's exactly what's going to happen in this case.
So there are the lower level kingpins, as you were saying, who are going to sort of take up the business?
Absolutely. As long as their demand coming from Europe, from the United States, from the rest of South America for cocaine, we are going to see a new kingpin emerge. Will he be a better, more sophisticated, more cruel kingpin than Otoniel? We're about to see that.
And Otoniel apparently had links to far-right and left-wing guerrillas. So what does this mean for Colombia's peace process, which has been in the making for decades and quite fragile at times?
Yes, the right-wing autodefensas gaitanistas de Colombia, which are also known as the Clan del Golfo, had been killing social leaders, had been eroding the rule of law in rural areas. That was definitely negative for the progress of the peace process and the implementation of things such as land reform, political rights for former victims, and justice. But what is going to come of this may be a deeper penetration by Mexican cartels, maybe the formation of a new organization that is going to continue making vulnerable people, or people who are already vulnerable, will remain so until we are able to address the drug war from the root of the cause, which is demand for drugs and an economic issue of inequality here in Colombia.
Okay, Sergio Guzman in Bogota, thanks so much.
Great to see you. Thank you.
And for more on this, let's go to Bogota and talk to Elizabeth Dickinson, a senior analyst at the Crisis Group for Colombia. Her work centers around armed conflict dynamics in the country. Ms. Dickinson, we understand this was a massive operation going on for years. Can you tell us what the final piece of the puzzle was that led to the arrest?
Well, I think what we've heard about the operation is that it was underway and being planned for several months before it took place. Certainly, this is a person that Colombian military intelligence would have been looking for really for years. We're talking about an individual who has had a leading role in the drug trade and in armed criminal activity for decades, really for 3 decades in various iterations. And this most latest, perhaps one of the most important, particularly since the 2016 peace accord between Colombia and the FARC group, FARC rebel group, the Clan del Golfo, the organization that Otoniel was running, really took advantage of that agreement to consolidate space and fill some of the vacuums that the FARC left behind. So they've really grown in influence, and so certainly this is a very significant arrest.
We were just hearing that the president sounds confident this spells the end of the cartel with a boss behind bars. Do you think that's true?
Unfortunately not, and I think this is one of the patterns that we've seen recently emerge in Colombia's conflict, is that often in a situation like this, after there is a big capture, you will see a sort of turf war, a battle for control of what's left, the spoils of the business thereafter. This is particularly worrying in the current situation because this is an armed group that already had significant splits within it. Now, Otoniel was such a powerful figure that he was able to mostly unify those splits, but I think we should all be very concerned and be watching closely to see the sort of fallout from this arrest in terms of competition within the armed group that could lead to violent feuds. This is an organization that uses violence really without consideration to the civilian cost. And so it's very worrying in terms of what it could signify for the regions of Colombia where this group is active.
And you were talking about the peace process earlier, particularly with the FARC rebels. Now, Otoniel apparently had links with both sides, far right, far left. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, what does his arrest mean for the fragile process?
So the peace process in 2016 with the FARC, I think, was really a game changer for Colombia because it really demonstrated that negotiation is the off-ramp to all of the conflicts that are taking place in Colombia. Now, Otoniel has a very interesting history in the conflict in this regard because, as you said, he was a bit of a pragmatist and a chameleon, changing sides when it was convenient for him. And one of those iterations was actually to seek negotiations with the government. Ultimately, the government decided this is more of a criminal organization than any sort of political movement. The negotiations didn't go forward. But I think moving ahead, what we have to think about is really how to deconstruct the dynamics of the conflict. And really negotiation is one of the only and best options that doesn't involve a civilian cost.
Okay, Elizabeth Dickinson, thanks so much for that insight.